I don't know about you guys, but out of the options that are out there, if I'm Andy Reid, I don't feel like Kansas City is the one I want.
Well, actually, it was first reported about a day after all the big firings that he would wind up in Arizona, and it would be him going as the coach. It would be Tom Heckert, the recently fired general manager of Cleveland, who was also on the personnel staff in Philadelphia. He would go and be the GM in Arizona. And Andy Reid would be joined on his coaching staff by Pat Shurmur, the fired coach of Cleveland, and a couple other guys he had worked with. I believe Brad Childress's name was on that list, the former coach of Minnesota. And there was one other guy, I can't remember the name right now. But he scheduled the interview with the guys at Kansas City first, was the way I heard it. He interviewed with Kansas City first, and then he's going to go interview with Arizona. I agree with you, though. I don't think Kansas City would be a good fit for him. I think what would be perfect for him would be something like Arizona, where he could bring in a lot of guys he was familiar with in Philadelphia. And you look, Kevin Kolb, obviously, if Arizona sticks with in-house options in terms of their quarterback, he's probably the best one, which really isn't saying much. But Reid and company did draft him, so you got to figure if anyone's going to be able to figure out his strengths, it'd be someone who knows him a little bit.
Yet they traded him. I mean,
They
that's
did.
the one.
They did.
You know, that is a major question mark with that one. But
You got to remember, though, that was right after Michael Vick first popped.
yeah.
So at that point,
Cobb gets injured in the game one against Green Bay. Vick comes in, plays really well for him. They trade Cobb in the offseason, and the rest remains to be history.
Exactly.
Now, Eric, I know me and you were talking a little bit. Sorry. Me and you were talking a little bit yesterday about where we would, particular places we might want to coach. If you're Andy Reid, is Kansas City where you really want to be?
No.
No?
They don't have a lot there. They got no quarterback, got a couple young pieces on defense. They're probably going to lose Dwayne Bowe this offseason, so I don't see him franchising him again. To me, I mean, maybe the most appealing thing to Andy Reid is getting full control over personnel.
And in Kansas City, I don't even think he'd really have that because Scott Pioli's still the general manager over there. And he's kind of in a lame duck situation now because they left him when they fired Crennel, but they basically gave him a warning that you'd be next.
Yeah, well, that's what I was hearing is that if Andy Reid goes there, then, like, the general manager, Pioli, is sort of like in a rock and a hard place. Like, well, if I hire Andy Reid, I pretty much sacrifice my own job.
I will say this, though. It just occurred to me. He does have experience letting the head coach do everything and just kind of chilling in the background because he was on the New England staff.
Yeah, but if it doesn't sound like that's going to be an option. It sounds like if Andy Reid gets hired, Andy Reid's going to want his general manager there, his director of player personnel. And that's why apparently this Kansas City job is so enticing to Andy Reid is the concept of that he'll be able to do pretty much what he did in Philly and control everything from almost pretty much the top to the bottom. But at the same time, no disrespect to Andy Reid, but maybe him controlling everything from top to bottom is not the best of ideas. You know what I mean? Yes, you did get 5 NFC championship games. You got to a Super Bowl. You lost it, but you got there, which is more than can be said about a lot of head coaches. But in 14 years, you had as many good years as you did bad years, and maybe a little confrontation with your general manager could be a positive thing. So if you're Pioli, do you hire him knowing that your job is pretty much on the line by doing it? Are you that, like, I know when you have your job in a situation like this, it's always supposed to be team first and worry about what's best for the team and all that. But how does a man or a woman, I don't care what sex you are, how does a person hire somebody knowing that by hiring them, you most likely are going to cost yourself your own job? How do you even do that?
That's a very good point. And I will say this. I've never been a big Andy Reid guy, But I think the one thing that makes him appealing to a team like Kansas City and even to someone like Pioli is that he has been a head coach for so long, and his teams were competitive. You're right; they did have as many bad seasons as good ones, but they did go to 4 straight NFC Championship games. They went to the one Super Bowl. So this was a team that was consistently at the top of their division. And you look at Kansas City. When's the last time they made the playoffs? I think they had the one year where they were close, but it's been at least a decade since they've been back to the playoffs. So a team like Kansas City or a guy like Pioli in that position could look at it and be like, well, something's got to be better than where we're at right now. As far as Pioli putting his job on the line, I think if you're going to make a decision like that, you want to do it with someone who has the experience and has a proven track record. And if he doesn't have anything else, at the very least, Andy Reid does have a good track record.